What is up, everybody? Welcome to the MMA Engine and welcome to the main event deep dive for Alexander Volkov, Jairzinho Rozenstruik. We have UFC Vegas 56 back after a week off. And yeah, I like this card a lot. 14 fights. Looking forward to the majority of them outside of Karolina Kowalkiewicz and Felice Herrig. But yeah, good card as a whole. Ending it with the main event and Volkov Rozenstruik should be fun. I'm here with Weezy. Weezy, how you doing? Looking forward to this card?
I am. It's a really fun card. I'm looking forward to seeing Karina Silva. I'm looking forward to seeing Lucas Almeida. The Menafield Mozarov fight's going to be a banger. And then what else do we got over here? We've got I'm actually looking forward to seeing Stolza Saint Denis.
Yeah.
Munoz Gravely is going to be fun. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this card. But when you get a heavyweight main event like this one, Volkov Rozenstruik, it's a great way to end the card. These heavyweight fights are always really exciting. And, Volkov brings some exciting fights, and Rozenstruik's always one punch away from landing a knockout. So, yeah, it's going to be a good one, man. Can't wait to fire it up.
For sure. Can't wait to talk about it with you, Weezy, in the chat as well. Before we get started, guys, if you guys can please leave a like, subscribe here to the MMA Engine. I think we're like 19 subs away from 900. So if we can get there maybe this week, that'd be awesome. Thank you guys so much for all the support. Me and Weezy will be back on Thursday for Probability and then a bunch of live streams Friday as well. So make sure you guys are subscribed so not miss out on all that good stuff. Before we start, let's start the chat. Shout out the chat. We got Brandon, first one here. Let's go. Always supporting. What is up, Brandon? We got David hanging out as well. MMA Asphalt. Jeremiah saying finally, and yeah, I agree with you there, Jeremiah. We got Philip saying what's up, what is up, Philip? And yeah, I say we get right into it. So as always, guys, we're going to start with the tail of the tape, and we have Volkov, who is 33 years old, 6'7" with an 80-inch reach. Jairzinho Rozenstruik is 34 years old, 6'2" with a 78-inch reach. So Volkov 1 year younger, Volkov with a 5-inch height advantage, and Volkov with a 2-inch reach advantage. But Weezy, we talked about it last night on Stat Diggers, and it's going to be a lot more than 5 inches of height for Volkov. There's no way that Rozenstruik is 6'2". I remember him facing off against guys like Blades, Gon, and Ganu, who I believe are all 6'4", and they're just like towering over him. It was like more than 2 inches. It was like 4 or 5 inches taller than Jairzinho Rozenstruik. This guy's not 6'2", so I think Volkov is going to be much, much, much taller than Rozenstruik. So tail of the tape, of course, is the advantage of Volkov there. We'll take a look at their last 5 fights. Volkov is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Had that knockout win against Walt Harris. Had the knockout win against Alistair Overeem. A decision loss against Cyril Gahn. A decision win against Marcin Tybura. And then a submission loss to Tom Aspinall his last time out. Jairzinho Rozenstruik, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. A knockout loss against Francis Ngannou. A knockout win against Junior Dos Santos, a decision loss to Cyril Gahn, a knockout win against Augusto Sakai, and a decision loss against Curtis Blades. So as you can see, these guys, when they are losing it to the best of the best. They both lost to Curtis Blades. They both lost to Cyril Gahn. And then Ngannou knocked out Rozenstruik, and there's absolutely no shame in that whatsoever. So, yeah, Weezy, any thoughts on the tail of the tape? Anything that's sticking out to you besides the big height advantage?
Yeah, I mean, it's, Volkov's a year younger here, and you like that because of the experience. He's much more experienced. So, he's 33, Rozenstruik's 34, so you got him younger. You got him probably 7 or 8 inches taller than Rozenstruik, and, a 2-inch reach advantage as well. So you definitely like all that. But he's got almost 30 more professional fights, Brady. He's got 250 more minutes in the pro cage. He's got 3 more years as a pro mixed martial artist, 3 more UFC fights, twice as much time in the UFC cage. That's 85 more minutes than Rozenstruik. So not only is he younger, taller, having a reach advantage, but he's got a big-time pro experience and a nice little UFC experience advantage as well here. And just a little bit more diverse when it comes to how he finishes, as Volkov actually has 3 wins by submission in his career, and the rest of the finishes are knockouts. While Jairzinho Rozenstruik not only has no submissions in his career, but even in the UFC, he hasn't even attempted a takedown yet or a submission attempt yet. So this guy is as pure of a pure striker as you can get. So yeah, you definitely on the left side of this spreadsheet see some nice advantages for Alexander Volkov, but the one advantage that Jairzinho Rozenstruik does have here is a 92% finish rate in 12 pro wins, while for Volkov, it's a 71% finish rate in 34 career wins.
Yep, and the reason that is Rozenstruik, like 92% finish rate, only went to decision one time, only won by decision one time, and that's because this guy has just so much power, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, but especially in this fight, like the lack of ability to really win minutes. He's not a minute winner. Rozenstruik is most definitely a moment winner. I want to see. So his only decision win was back in 2018 against Andre Kovalev, and that was a split decision. But yeah, outside of that, just knockout after knockout after knockout after knockout after knockout. And you can see why this guy has the death touch. I remember when he knocked out Alan Crowder with that jab just out of nowhere. Knocked out Junior Albini. Like this guy hits like an absolute truck. Knocked out Andre Arlovsky. So yeah, he's most definitely a moment winner there. But yeah, as far as the finishing goes, Rozenstruik, if he wins a fight, it's going to be a finish. I'd be shocked, absolutely shocked, went out there and outpointed Volkov for 5 rounds, right?
Yeah, I actually watched that Kovalev fight today to see, like, I got to see what a Jairzinho Rozenstruik decision win looks like, you know. And he had a great first round, landed. He actually won minutes in the first round with his striking against Kovalev. Kovalev, like the announcers, I think Frank Trigg was one of the announcers of this fight. It was in Ryzen, and he's like, I don't understand what this Russian guy is waiting for. Just take him down. And just when he said that, it's like the Russian knew English and heard Trigg say that. He took down Rozenstruik in the second and remained on top for the rest of the round, easily won the second round. And then the third round comes around and he doesn't shoot for any more takedowns. It was bizarre. But what happened was, I think they got close and he overextended on a punch, did Kovalev. And Rozenstruik actually got on top of him, won a bunch of minutes in the third round. So that's kind of how it looked. But, this one, it's kind of hard to see it going to decision just because Rozenstruik hits so hard and he has so much power. But if Volkov gets this to the ground, I think he can actually find a finish as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out.
Yep, for sure. Both guys very dangerous, especially Thick Volkov. Thick Volkov was just different. So I want to see what Volkov weighs in at. If he comes in at 265, you better watch out. I remember he looked like a monster against Walt Harris. He looked like a monster against Alistair Overeem as well. So yeah, looking forward to maybe seeing the return of Thick Volkov, because last time we talked about it last night, he weighed in like 253 against Tom Aspinall. So I'm hoping to see what he looks like at the weigh-ins there. But yeah, in terms of the striking, I feel like this probably does primarily stay striking unless Volkov does go for takedowns here. We know for a fact that Rozenstruik's not going to go for takedowns. If he did, I'd be shocked. But in terms of the striking, I kind of feel like it's just going to be Volkov, winning the minutes. Volkov is much higher volume, whereas Rozenstruik is kind of on his back foot, waiting to counter. And yeah, it works a lot. I mean, obviously he has a ton of knockout wins, but that is a very good way to get behind as well. So yeah, Rozenstruik has a ton of power. He's going to have the power advantage, and he's going to have 25 minutes to land a big shot in a small cage. So that's what makes this fight so interesting.
Absolutely, it does. So let's look at these striking numbers here because they're going to be crucial. We can kind of just glaze over the grappling stats in this fight because we don't see. I mean, Rozenstruik's never going to shoot for a takedown unless he's absolutely rocked and has no idea who he is.
Yeah.
But Volkov has only attempted 10 takedowns in 12 UFC fights. So when you see those kind of stats, 21 combined fights for Jairzinho Rozenstruik and Alexander Volkov, right? And only 10 combined takedown attempts. And Rozenstruik has less than 1% of control time for, and Volkov has less than 7% control time for. So those grappling stats right there are basically screaming right in our face, Brady. Look at the striking. If you can figure out who wins the striking exchanges in this fight, you're probably going to figure out who wins the fight. So Volkov looking certainly like a great minute winner here with his striking stats. We see that he lands 5.17 significant strikes per minute and only absorbs 3.29. He throws 9.14 significant strike attempts per minute, and his opponents are only throwing 7.14. So definitely we like to see that he's out attempting his opponents by 2 significant strike attempts per minute and out landing by about 1.8. So that's good minute winning numbers. He's landed 3 knockdowns in 12 UFC fights, so that's a low number for a heavyweight, 0.26 knockdowns per 15 minutes, and he's been knocked down twice. He's only absorbing 5.17 knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes. 54% striking defense isn't great, but it's not horrible either. But Rozenstruik, he absorbs more significant strikes than he lands by 0.27 per minute. So he's landing 2.8, absorbing 3.07. He throws a little more volume than his opponents, throwing 6.09. His opponents throw 5.67. The striking accuracy at 46%, not great, but we do see that he's landed 6 knockdowns in 9 fights. So that's a 2.5% knockdowns per total significant strikes landing, and he's averaging over 1 knockdown per 15 minutes. So it's obviously Volkov Volkov the minute winner on the feet, Rozenstruik the moment winner. Not good striking defense for Rozenstruik here at 45.77%. That could be a problem. That could be another indication that Volkov, being the more defensively responsible striker, also having the reach and the size advantage here, will be able to hopefully maintain range if that's what he's looking to do and win a kickboxing match here. He's going to have to be very careful about Jairzinho countering him, catching his leg kicks, and just landing that big counter shot, because that's what Jairzinho loves to do. He doesn't let you stand in front of him and throw volume, because he will always be throwing back.
Yep, and throwing back really hard as well. Like, I feel like Volkov is going to clearly win the striking exchanges for the most part, but yeah, it only takes one. And people in the chat are saying gut feeling Rozenstruik gets lucky and catches him. Well, that's absolutely on the table. This is a heavyweight fight. We're in the small cage, and Rozenstruik has dynamite in his hand, so that's 100% on the table. Asphalt saying my head is telling me Volkov, but I got that feeling Rozenstruik clips him here, and I'm kind of the same way. I think, yeah, Volkov should win this fight. He should be the clear minute winner, but 5 rounds with Rozenstruik is a long time. And the thing I like about Volkov, though, like 44 fights the guy's had, he's only been knocked out only twice, and only once in the UFC. He got knocked out by Minikov back in 2013, and then he got knocked out by Derek Lewis with like seconds left in the 3rd round in a fight he was winning. So yeah, 44 fights for Volkov as a heavyweight, only knocked out twice. Like, the guy has a good chin, but when it's Rozenstruik, if he hits you clean, it might not matter. So that's kind of where I'm kind of struggling. I feel like Volkov should be winning the striking exchanges, should be out voluming Rozenstruik, no problem, but it only takes one. It's kind of the scary thing.
Yeah, and something that I think that is very important here, since we're doing a main event deep dive and we're going balls deep into the stats. Look over there on tail of the tape. Both of these guys are orthodox fighters. Now, one thing that I've noticed is that, when you've got orthodox against orthodox, if you've got a good jab, you're going to be able to use that jab against somebody who has the same stance as you. It's the orthodox fighter fighting a southpaw that has a harder time getting their jab off. And if you look at Rozenstruik, in his first 2 UFC wins against, the Albini one was the first one, but the second one against Crowder, it was the jab that won him the fight. And in the 3rd one against Arlovski, he landed 2 big jabs, and that was what got Arlovski backing up, and then he caught him with the big right hook. But one thing that I noticed is that Rozenstruik, when he fought Overeem came out. Overeem is an orthodox fighter, but Overeem fought that whole fight southpaw. And that's when we saw Jairzinho a lot more tentative. He wasn't able to use that jab to counter and to set up his big right hand. So we saw him take 24 minutes and 50 seconds to land that big shot. Volkov is an orthodox fighter. So if Rozenstruik lands a big shot here, I would not call it luck. Can you bring up those advanced stats? Let me show these guys something here, Brady. If we go down to Jairzinho Rozenstruik here, and we look at the individual stats in the fight, and you look at that knockdown column, we can highlight the Augusto Sakai fight. We can highlight the Junior Dos Santos fight, the Overeem fight, the Arlovski fight, the Crowder fight, and the Albini fight. Those are all 6 wins for Rozenstruik in the UFC. In all 6 of those wins, he's landed exactly 1 knockdown. In all 6 of those wins, he's won by knockout. He's the kind of guy who is happy to lose minutes because he knows he just needs one. And he's proved it every goddamn time in the UFC that if he lands the big shot, he's not only knocking you down, but he's going to win the fight. And then if you look at the 3 losses, the ones that aren't highlighted here, you've got Curtis Blades, Cyril Gane, and Francis Ngannou. What didn't he do in those fights? Land a knockdown. What did he do in all 3 of those fights? Lose the fight. So look, this is what Rozenstruik is. He's a moment winner. He needs one big shot. He's going to counter. He's got a decent chin himself, and he can knock you down with a jab. He can knock you down with a lead left hook, and he can knock you down with a big right hand, like he did to Arlovsky, like he did with Overeem in the 5th round. So, this is going to be about Jairzinho landing that one big shot. And if we look at the hole in his game is so if we highlight the Blades fight, if we highlight the Gane fight, if we highlight the Overeem fight and the Albini fight. Now, he's 2-2 in those fights, but those are the fights where he was taken down. If we scroll to the right, we could see that he was taken down 3 of 6 times by Blades, 2 of 14 times by Gane. Overeem took him down 2 of 10 times, and Albini took him down 2 of 6 times. So in those fights, he was 9 of 36 on the takedown attempts against. So he still showed 75% takedown defense. But when he's getting taken down, he's yielding a whole bunch of control time. 500 seconds to Overeem, 187 seconds to Albini, 269 seconds to Gane, and 379 seconds to Blades. So it does go to show you that it's not easy to take down Rozenstruik, but if you do commit to wrestling this guy, when you do get the takedowns, they're going to bear fruit. You're going to win the round because this guy does not do a good job of getting back up. So we can see that in the fights that he's being taken down, on those 9 takedowns, he's given up 1,336 seconds of control time. So that's over 2 minutes of control time per takedown that he's allowing. So this is going to be the important part of the fight, because if we go back now to the matchup template, Brady, this is where we look at Volkov's grappling numbers. Only 7 of 10 on his takedown attempts, and he's only managed 7% control time. Yeah. So that would be I'd say about 13 minutes of control time on 7 takedowns, and that includes the cage control time too, not just the ground control. So this guy is not good, and I'm talking about Alexander Volkov, at using his wrestling to win minutes, which then leads me to believe now we got a 25 minutes on the feet for Rozenstruik to find that one knockdown. Is he going to do it? That's the tale of his tape. That's the narrative of this fight. If you break it down properly, I think that's the conclusion that you come to.
And that's what makes the fight so exciting. That's what makes you on the edge of your seat for 25 minutes in this fight, because one shot is all it takes for Rozenstruik. But yeah, he made his debut against Junior Albini, the guy that used to wear the diaper. And Albini got him down twice. He got him to mount. And I thought going forward, Rozenstruik's ground game would be a huge detriment. But the guy's made improvements. He went from getting taken down, getting almost finished by Albini, to surviving on the mat with a guy like Overeem, a guy like Blades, guys like that, a guy like Gane. So I do think he has made some improvements. And yeah, like you said, it doesn't give you much confidence taking a look at Alexander Volkov. I mean, 70% takedown accuracy, that's phenomenal, but just only 10 takedown attempts in 12 fights is not something you'd really want to see. But back to the striking, I do think Volkov's going to win the striking exchanges. It's just 25 minutes, and Bootsy is in Rozenstruik as well.
Yeah, man. That's through a closed door. He is fired up right now, and I think he's trying to tell us something.
Man, it's tricky. David says, does Volkov do a good job controlling the clinch? Could just wear on Biggie Boy, especially in the small cage, kind of like Gane did a little bit of that. Do you think Volkov? I think it'd be smart. I mean, use that size on the much smaller Rozenstruik. But again, it's not something Volkov really does all that much.
It's not, that's the thing about Volkov, is that Volkov is most comfortable in the same type of situation that Jairzinho is most comfortable in. Yeah. And like I've always said, the numbers, people always say stats lie. Yeah, sometimes they do, but sometimes they don't. And one of the most, in my opinion, one of the most telling stats is how often are you offensively going to the grappling? Because when you go over a big enough sample size, Brady, it becomes very painfully clear that certain fighters just statistically are not comfortable initiating grappling exchanges. We see it all the time. It's there in plain English for Jairzinho Rozenstruik. 0 takedown attempts in 9 fights and less than 1% control time for. So of course, Jairzinho is screaming at you with a stat like that. I'm here to box. I'm here to kickbox at range. I am not comfortable doing anything else. And it's the same thing with Volkov. We've got an even bigger sample size of 172 minutes of cage time, and this guy's getting less than 7% control time for. He's averaging 0.61 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he's only attempted 10 takedowns in 12 fights. So he is absolutely, for every 1 takedown Alexander Volkov attempts, his opponents are attempting 7.8. So another statistic right there that's going to say, okay, if you think that Volkov is going to use wrestling to win minutes here, then what you're predicting is that a man that's 33 years old and has had 44 professional fights is all of a sudden going to turn into a D1 wrestler. That doesn't happen often.
Yeah, it's like counting on Corey McKenna to take down white belt Elise Reed.
Why, Brady? I
can't believe it still.
So to our audience out there, if I have a hard time focusing for the rest of this main event deep dive, you got your Uncle Brady to thank for that, for bringing up events that have scarred his Uncle Weezy in the past.
Same. There's a ton
same
that
to you. Yes.
So let's talk about the strength of schedule a little bit. I'm curious to see who has the advantage here. Because, like, on paper, they both fought the best of the best guys in the division.
Yeah, but the metrics are actually showing a fairly clear advantage here for Jairzinho Rozenstruik. So the win-loss ratio of a Volkov opponent is 1.75 to 1, but for Rozenstruik, it's 2.15 to 1. And they're both fighting very experienced opponents with just about 14 total UFC fights. So a little bit of an edge there overall for Rozenstruik. And then if we look at the wins, which is my favorite thing to look at, what's the archetype of the fighter that they're beating, right? Well, the average record of a guy that Volkov beats is 8.88 wins and 6.25 losses, 15.13 total fights, a 1.42 to 1 win-to-loss ratio. So good competition, very good competition. But for Rozenstruik, it's even better, dude. 9.5 wins, 5.5 losses, 15 total fights, and a 1.73 win-to-loss ratio. And then if we look at the losses, even a little bit better for Rozenstruik, because he's losing the guys with a 4.5 to 1 win-to-loss ratio, while Volkov is also losing to excellent competition with a 3.27 to 1 win-to-loss ratio. They've both lost to Gane. They've both lost to Blades. Rozenstruik's other loss was to Ngannou, who's the current champion. And for Volkov, the other loss is to Tom Aspinall, and he's definitely one of the guys that will probably be wearing gold around his waist at some point. And there's one more loss for Volkov. I forget which one it was. But
Lewis? Did you say Lewis yet?
Yeah, Derek Lewis. And he's got that Derek Lewis loss, just like Jairzinho Rozenstruik has the Overeem win. That buzzer beater, changed the trajectory of the fight literally in the last 15 seconds of the fight. So, yeah, they have similar career trajectories here. They're both kickboxers first. They're both fighting and beating really good competition. While Volkov is a little more attritional and needs to pile up strikes to get knockouts, Rozenstruik more of a one-punch guy. But still, they're knocking a lot of dudes out. Volkov in his 8 wins has knocked out 4 of them. Rozenstruik in his 6 UFC wins has knocked out all 6 of them. And like I say, it just takes one knockdown with Rozenstruik. You're not getting back up after he knocks you down once. It's just going to be a referee pulling you off, or pulling him off of you, and then you looking up at the lights wondering what happened.
Yeah, for sure. Monk saying, do you think the insane height difference will play a factor here? We all know Jairzinho is not 6'3". He's not.
Yeah, so Jairzinho was probably about 6 feet, and I went, and I laughed out loud because I was like, I remember Rozenstruik saying he was 6'4" when he came in the UFC. If you go back and you watch the Crowder fight, that dude is listed at 6'4" when Crowder is listed at 6'3", and you see them come out, and it's like, oh my God, he's 4 inches shorter than Crowder. So, but you didn't get to see that for long because he literally dropped him with a jab 5 seconds into that fight. So you didn't get a long time to see how much taller Crowder was than him. But yes, Monk is correct. He is a liar about his height, and he's been caught lying and had to change his height from 6'4" to 6'2", which is still lying.
Still, yeah, by a decent amount still. So hopefully they fix it eventually. Maybe this will be the fight to fix it, but I don't know. So everybody in the chat, let me know what you guys think. Who do you guys think wins? What is your favorite bet for this fight? Because I feel like there's a couple different ways to play it. I'm curious to your thoughts on some of these props, Weezy. So let's start with the money line. We have Volkov. He opened up minus 160. Hasn't been too much movement. He's currently minus 155. Rozenstruik opened up plus 140, and he's currently plus 135. So we'll start there. What are your thoughts on the money line?
So, the money line is something I probably won't be touching here because I don't think it's, I think the money line, it's too broad. Because Jairzinho Rozenstruik isn't submitting anybody, and he's probably not winning a 5-round decision here. We can see in these striking stats that Volkov throws more volume, he's more accurate, and he's more defensively responsible. So that over a long timeline of 25 minutes is probably going to say that Volkov wins a decision. And we've seen that Rozenstruik has 6 wins in the UFC. All 6 of them have come inside the distance by knockout as a result of 1 knockdown. So in terms of the money line, I don't want to lay juice for Volkov here. I would rather just say I'll take Volkov by decision or bet the decision only prop on Volkov. And I'll take Jairzinho Rozenstruik by knockout because you don't even have to worry about him getting a submission. So you could just say Jairzinho Rozenstruik by KO TKO, which is sitting at plus 200 right now. If you're on the Rozenstruik side, take Rozenstruik by KO or the Rozenstruik finish only prop. And if you're on that Volkov side, I think you take Volkov by decision or like a 4-5 decision prop. If he does, because we know that Volkov, if he does manage the distance well here, starts landing that jab and starts landing some straight punches down the pipe, and he's not getting countered, he could, wear down Rozenstruik and knock him out late, I think.
Yeah, I think those are some good ways to play it. The 4-5 decision, I'd be interested to see. So Volkov by decision in general, it is plus 260 on FanDuel, and then plus 225 on BetOnline. So FanDuel does have the best prop there, but in terms of the 4-5 decision for Volkov, it is currently they moved it. I could have swore it was much better, but they have Volkov 4-5 decision plus 165.
That's so much better. I mean, he could get an early knockout. I mean, he did it to Walt Harris. He did it to what was the other one that I was watching earlier today? The Overeem fight. Yeah. Oh man, he destroyed Overeem, and he looked so good against Harrison Overeem. Mm-hmm. And then he just got in there with Gane, and that speed was just way too much for him. But he looked pretty good. I watched back that Tabura fight. He didn't look as bad as I remember there. He had a good third round. He had a good first round. He clearly won those rounds. And Tabura shot like 10 takedowns in the second round. So it was hard for him to look good in that round because he was just fighting off the grappling the entire time.
Yeah, he looked fine. I had a big bet on him, and I was not feeling overly confident. He was like minus 300 just about. But yeah, he looked good in the third round. I'm glad he bounced back. So 4-5 decision for Volkov. Rozenstruik by KO is plus 200. That's how he wins. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, it's really, really hard to picture him winning any other way. I mean, he could win a decision. It's not completely out of the realm of possibility here, especially if Volkov doesn't want to, if he doesn't want to wrestle. And, maybe Jairzinho lands some big shots, but doesn't get a knockdown, in a couple of different rounds, and then just does enough in one round to win some points. He could win a decision, but the numbers tell us over a long timeline that Volkov does a good job of winning minutes on the feet.
Yep. So Rozenstruik by KO is interesting. The 4-5 decision for Volkov is interesting. Wouldn't touch either money line. And then also the scorecards equals no action is something I probably am going to bet. I'm just waiting for DraftKings to get it out. But on Bet Online, they have the scorecards equals no action for Rozenstruik is minus 130. So money's came in on that. It actually opened up minus 105. On 5 dimes, it's minus 150. But on FanDuel, it's still minus 108 for the scorecards equals no action. And that means that if the fight goes to decision, the bet is voided. If Volkov wins inside the distance, the bet loses. And then if Rozenstruik wins inside the distance, the bet wins. So I'm liking that minus 108 on FanDuel, but I'm just waiting for DraftKings to get it out.
Yeah, and I bet that last night, not knowing that FanDuel had the main event props out because they've been so horrible lately. And then I told you, I just put 1.15 units on the finish only prop for Rozenstruik. You're like, yeah, it's minus 108 on FanDuel. It's like, son of a bitch. So I gave up 0.07 units there to overpay for that one, but it's already moving, and I think rightfully so here. That's how Rozenstruik wins fights, and he's only been finished by Ngannou. And we know that Ngannou is like one of the only guys in the division that actually has more power than Rozenstruik. And that man is not Volkov. It is Francis Ngannou. So, yeah, this is it's a good spot to bet that plus 200 for Rozenstruik by KO. I mean, it's a small cage, 25 minutes, and we don't see Volkov winning a ton of minutes on the ground in any UFC fight. And I think it's also important to note here that Volkov has no takedown attempts in his last 5 fights. He didn't even try to take down Cyril Gane, who was dancing circles around him. So if you're not, and I mean, that's somebody that Ngannou won minutes on the ground against, a guy that's not known for his ground game. So, if Volkov wasn't willing to go to the wrestling against Gane, what are the chances he tries to go for it here against Rozenstruik? It might not be a good idea, especially in a 5-round fight where he could get gassed if he tries to offensively wrestle in an unsuccessful fashion.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see what the chat's saying. Mushroom, always liking violent. He said Volkov 3-4-5. So he's talking about like Volkov, the sprinkles there. Volkov in round 3 is if I can find, Volkov round 3 plus 1100, Volkov round 4 plus 1600, Volkov round 5 plus 1800. I think they'd be a little more juicy than that. And then he's like, and the fight doesn't go to decision, the under 4.5, the fight doesn't go, is sitting at minus 158. The under 4.5 is sitting at minus 125. And Weezy, I'm sure we'll talk about it more on the probability show on Thursday, but you told me last night it was like, what do you say, like 76% of the heavyweight main events finish?
Yeah, so I've actually got that spreadsheet up here. Since the year 2013, the UFC has had 60 5-round heavyweight fights. 47 of them have finished inside the distance. I believe that's 78.33%. And 78.33%, as you know, would go to like a minus 350 betting line to get to that implied probability. We're getting the fight doesn't go to decision here on Caesars right now at minus 150, not minus 350. So something to keep in mind there. Now we've seen Rozenstruik go to a 5-round decision before against Cyril Gane. We've seen Volkov go to a 5-round decision against Cyril Gane. We have seen Rozenstruik go to 4 seconds left in the 5th round against Overeem. Mm-hmm. And I think that's it. I think that's it in terms of decisions for these guys in 5-round fights. But still, we've seen them go to decisions before, but at 78% over almost a 10-year timeline of 5-round heavyweight fights, to get a fight doesn't go to decision at minus 150 feels like, regardless of what you think of the stylistic matchup or how this is going to play out, it it seems like a good spot to me. Like you're not overpaying by any stretch of the imagination. You're not even overpaying for minus 150 based on a 3-round heavyweight fight, much less a 5-round heavyweight fight.
Yeah, you're definitely not overpaying there. Brandon saying violence, he agrees. David saying you'd think Volkov is a safe on the decision only, but I thought that same with Gane decision only. You're talking about Ngannou, and yeah, I'm right there with you. I almost placed a big bet, a huge bet on the Gane decision only against Francis Ngannou. If I did that and Ngannou went out there and out wrestled Cyril Gane for like 3 of the 5 rounds. I mean, I don't see Rozenstruik doing that, out wrestling Volkov, but yeah, that just goes to show like anything can happen in MMA. But yeah, that happened. PSSA, is it crazy to sprinkle Rose submission if Aspinall can do it? Aspinall is a legit,
it is crazy. It is
black
crazy.
belt, and Rozenstruik, I think, is a white belt, but Rozenstruik by sub is
Rozenstruik doesn't even own a gi. Okay, he's not even a white belt. You have to have a gi to have a white belt on. So Rozenstruik has attempted 0 takedowns in 9 UFC fights, and he's attempted 0 submissions in 9 UFC fights. When you put those two together, it means that there's a snowball's chance in hell that this guy's getting a submission. And when you add to the fact that it's going to be against a UFC level heavyweight opponent, it makes it even less likely. So don't bet that.
Yeah,
don't bet that.
It's plus 3,400. I mean, you'd have to root for like him tapping to strikes, or I don't know.
It would be wild if Rozenstruik finished anybody via submission in the UFC. It would be, I mean, just a gambler's like story, you know, that would last forever. Like I had money on Corey McKenna against Elise Reed, and then watch Sam Hughes drown her on the ground in the very next fight that she had. So yeah, it's one of those things, dude. Don't bet that. Plus 3,400, it's not even juicy enough. It should be like plus 7,500 that even attempts a submission, much less gets it against a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt.
Yeah. I'd be shocked, to say the least. Mushroom saying Volkov would avoid the death touch, volume him up, and finish him late. I think that's definitely on the table. PS, yeah, plus 3,400. Rob saying Rozenstruik is round 2. If you have the extra few bucks to spare, yeah, Rozenstruik round 2 is plus 1,100, I believe. Brandon saying the KO prop on FanDuel is minus 175. Do you mean like fight ends and KO is minus 175?
Probably, yeah, because that's why that minus 150 that's sticking out of there on Caesars right now is just egregious. I can't believe they're laying it there because it's the best that we can get. And yeah, and it would make sense because since Rozenstruik has most of the finishing equity, you would figure that 80 to 90% of that fight doesn't go to decision line would be the KO prop, because Volkov has, like I say, less than 10% of his career wins are by submission, and he has no submissions at the UFC level. And he has attempted 0 submissions in 12 UFC fights. So, like, that fight ends in KO should be damn close to the fight doesn't go to decision. There should be very little room in there for a submission.
I mean, this is where it makes no sense, though. It says the fight ends in KO is minus 175, but the fight doesn't go to decision is minus 158. What? Like, okay, all right.
Yeah. So, yeah, the trader in me knows that is somebody needs to be fired for pricing these lines because they are doing a piss poor job.
Maybe they'll fix it, but yeah, I mean, fight ends if they fix it later in the week and fight ends in KOs like minus 140, minus 130, yeah, that's awesome. Lou in the chat, what is up, Lou? Sorry for being late. What is the Lou bet for this fight? Well, the Lou bet for this fight, I'll scroll down to it, is going to be, how about Rozenstruik wins by submission in the 5th round at plus 6,000? That sounds like a Lou bet to me. What do you think, Lee?
Like it? Plus 30,000.
Plus 6, yeah, it should be. So we're not getting the best odds on it, but plus 6,000 round 5 submission for Rozenstruik. Could you imagine?
That would never. Oh my god, that would be crazy if that happened. That'd be just so crazy.
Lou's liking it. He's liking it. There you go. That'll help you out, buddy. Prize Picks has over under Volkov significant strike 71.5. Fight time in 19 minutes. Thoughts? I mean, I think it should go over, but at any point, there could be a knockout. Is the only thing that kind of scares me.
Yeah, I wouldn't do time props in a Rozenstruik fight.
Tough.
It's
It's tough. Yeah.
yeah, man, it's something that I think that there are better bets on the board that you can really kind of cap at a more realistic percentage than is this fight, because it's basically like, all right, is Jairzinho going to land that one big strike? Because that's where the finishing equity is, and it's hard to say, because he's landed that big strike 24 minutes and 50 seconds into a fight, and he's also landed that strike 5 seconds into a fight.
Yeah.
He's dangerous at any goddamn time. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I guess we'll give our final thoughts and then our favorite bet. So for me, yeah, I'm not touching the money line. I'm gonna pick Volkov to win. I think he should be the minute winner here. But like we talked about, Rozenstruik's going to have 25 minutes. The bets that I like, there's actually a couple that stick out. I don't know which ones I'm going to play yet, but I will be having a bet on this fight. The ones that stick out the most is going to be the Rozenstruik KO plus 200, and then the finish no bet on FanDuel is what they call it. The scorecards equals no action, minus 108 for Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I think if this fight does finish, I think it probably should be wider in favor of Rozenstruik there. So KO, finish only, and I think that's all I'm looking at, really. Just Rozenstruik KO and the finish only. Weezy, what's your favorite bet for this fight, and who you picking?
So I already have the bet on Rozenstruik, the finish only prop that I put down 1.15 units on at minus 115 on Bet Online last night. I do like Rozenstruik by KO at plus 200 as well. And I also like the Volkov 4-5 decision at plus 165. I think that's a really good way to play it as well. I think you could even do, if you want to be really risky, you could play the Volkov by 4-5 decision and the Rozenstruik by KO, get both of them by their most realistic win condition, and one of those two outcomes should happen. So yeah, that's probably the way that I would go here. I think my pick though is going to be Jairzinho Rozenstruik by second round knockout. I think
Hey,
that's I think that's going to be my pick here. I just don't like the ability for Volkov to dodge that big shot for 25 full minutes. I think that I'd feel a lot safer about it if I had seen some incidences in the past where Volkov had used his wrestling and his clinch game in order to eat up some minutes and to fight a smarter game plan here. Since I haven't seen him do that, I can't count on it, and I got to think that at some point over 25 minutes, Jairzinho finds his chin.
yep, sounds good. I mean, it's definitely on the table. So, I guess one last thing, DraftKings wish they would have the lines out. This fight's been, I don't know, we had a week off, so you think the lines would be out, but they're not. But yeah, the decision only for Volkov. If they mess it up, I'll be betting that. But they're probably gonna, it's probably gonna be like minus 300, minus 400. But if they mess it up, I'll play that. But yeah, the Rozenstruik, the finish only, especially at near even money. I think that's a really good look. Probably my favorite spot on the main event.
Yeah, I think it's a great bet, and I think it's a great main event, great fight. Two top 10 heavyweights. It's a great way to finish off this card. Coming off of a week off, got 12 straight weeks of UFC, and the best way to start off 12 straight weeks of UFC is to spend that first card stacking cash tickets like flapjacks, making some money, getting on a good run here because we got a lot of work to do over the next 3 months here.
100%. We have a banger of a card next week as well. 275. Jerry Glover. Can't wait for that. So we have that to look forward to. And yeah, guys, that is about it. Thank you for hanging out. If you guys can leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Let's try to hit 900 subscribers by the end of the week. That'd be awesome. I'll be going live on the channel on Friday for my final thoughts, breaking down the weigh-ins, bets, all that good stuff. Weezy, are you going live? You said you're going to go live tomorrow or Wednesday?
Probably for a balls deep breakdown on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. I'll be going live on Wednesday night at some point, probably 10 o'clock Central Time for a balls deep breakdown. I'm thinking maybe Ige Evloev or one of the other fights. There's some good ones on this one. So if you guys have any particular requests, just let me know. But I'll be going live tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Central Time on my channel, Uncle Weezy, to do Just the Tip with Uncle Weezy. Break down all 14 of these fights, give you a greasy 4-leg parlay, and Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week is how we end it every week. And coming off of a 1 week loss here, I got the Holly Holm pick did not work out for me. I think I'm going to be retiring from picking women to carry the ass shaving of the week banner for me. It's just, God damn it, every time it's sketchy. It just seems like the variance in women's fights is just maddening. So, yeah, join me tomorrow night on my channel. Join us Thursday night for Probability at 7:15 Central Time here on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. Like, subscribe. Thank you guys for spending your Monday evening with us. I'm going to get over and I'm going to watch Clint work with Brett Apley on the Die Hard MMA podcast on Pub Sports Radio.
It's going to be a good show. And yeah, I can't wait to see who's going to shave some ass this week. I think there's a lot of possibilities to see who's going to shave some ass. So make sure you guys tune into that. Yeah, guys, best of luck this week. Let's start out June with a winning night, and then yeah, we'll keep it going 12 weeks in a row. Best of luck. We'll talk to you guys soon. See ya.